One of the biggest talking points of this current Formula One season is 2021 and the much vaunted regulations that are coming in that will change the face of Formula One itself. What's it going to do? What are they going to look like? All of those kinds of things are up for discussion. And over the last couple of weeks, a few journalists have been given a little bit of a sneak peek over some of the work going on behind the scenes at Formula One to try and define these 2021 regulations. I'm joined by John Noble, who's one of those journalists who have seen some of those images. Now, John, you've seen them. What do they look like at the moment?
I think the car does look very different. We saw some concept images, that famous Ross Brawn presentation to the fans in Singapore last year, where the fans posted them on social media and they had to confirm where they were going. It's moved on a lot. I think one of the big things that strikes you first of all is the front wing. Very, very wide, very simple, very shallow in some respects. And I'm not sure it'll end up like that. The FIA and FOM aren't particularly keen on it because they want these cars to look fantastic. But I think one of the key things with these cars and where they'll be different from what we have now is underneath, because we're heading towards a kind of new ground effect era.
So based on what you've told him, based on those ideas, our technical illustrator Giorgio Piola has been able to put together an interpretation of those rules. And apart from the big front wing as well, you talked about the ground effects as well. What kind of thing will that bring to Formula One?
One of the key drivers for what the changes F1 want to make is to improve the racing. We've seen it highlighted again this year. There are two aspects. The cars can't follow each other close enough. I think we're told that if a car's within 2 car lengths of the car in front, it loses 45% of downforce. The tyres start sliding, the tyres overheat, and it kills the racing. We saw it at the British Grand Prix again. Lewis, could stay close for Valtteri for 1 or 2 laps in the early battle and then had to drop back. So this is the problem. F1 want these cars to follow each other closer. The way to do that is to less reliance on wings to provide the downforce. It's now more ground effect, which isn't affected by turbulence from the cars in front. So we're talking a massive change. The current plans, and these car designs changing. Giorgio's is an interpretation of what it could look like. I'm sure it's going to be different in 1 month's time, 3 months' time, 6 months' time. But they want to cut it down so if a car's 2 car lengths behind the car in front, it's going to lose maybe 5-10% downforce, and that'll make a big change to the racing.
And so the deadline to get all of these changes in order is in October. Are there any more things that the FIA has to define, and are the teams happy about the current direction?
No, I think there is pushback from the teams. There's a big battle going on at the moment to make these regulations work, to deliver that 5 to 10% downforce loss. A lot of this car is going to have to be prescripted, so the teams aren't going to be able to change certain bits. They aren't going to have freedom to develop barge boards like we see now. They aren't going to have much freedom on the front wings and rear wings. And the teams aren't happy. They want their individuality. They want to be able to develop, to find an advantage. But if they do that, the concept doesn't work and we lose the racing. So there's a bit of a pushback. One of the arguments the teams are using is that if we go down this route, it's effectively a standard car. There's been no more individuality. They're not happy. But F1's argument is the individuality doesn't matter to anyone beyond the X100 engineers working in Formula One. There's a nice little story. Ross Brawn mentioned that FOM have blacked out all the current cars to get rid of the colours, get rid of the livery, so they're all identical. And then they've asked all their top men to name each individual car based on a blacked out image. And I think the most anyone got was 3 out of the 10. So the cars aren't that different at the moment. They're already quite prescriptive. But I think there will be a big battle now between F1 wanting to deliver the rules that the fans want, because we want close racing. We want the cars to follow each other. We want the wheel-to-wheel battles like we saw at Silverstone in Austria. We want that all the time. And against the teams and engineers who want their freedom. And
so is that going to give Ross Brawn and this team a bit of a problem, that they're going to present a solution come October and people aren't still going to be happy with it?
I'm not sure how the battle will be won. I think in the end it will have to come down to a decision of the FIA and FOM. Do we stand firm? Do we upset the teams? Are we going to have to just do this and push it through? Or is there going to have to be a bit of a compromise deal reached? But I think the key message I kind of got speaking to Ross, speaking to Nicholas Tombassis, is that they don't want to back down too much, because you back down and keep the teams and engineers happy, you could end up with racing that's not much better than the worst we've seen this year. So I think they need to make the teams understand that. And I think they made the teams understand that there will still be an advantage. A team like Mercedes will have a big advantage because it's resources, it's experience, it's knowledge. You can't wipe that away with a change of rules, but all that experience will give them 2 temps in the next generation of Formula One, not 2 seconds.
So there's a number of other interesting features on Giorgio's representation of a 2021 car. What are those key areas? Would you be able to pick out a few?
Well, I think the other thing you'll notice is the front wheels have deflectors over the top We've seen them in other racing categories, often at the back, and that's a safety element. But this isn't safety. This is about getting the aero to work. F1's realised, part of the problem is the, disturbed airs causing the loss of downforce for the car behind, and teams are now brilliant at managing that airflow over the front tyre, getting it outwashed, robbing the car behind of downforce. These deflectors keep the air towards the car, that will divert it underneath into this huge diffuser that we'll see to feed even more downforce, and it should be a factor in helping the car behind follow closer.
And so we know one of the things locks in for 2021 is that Pirelli is going to 18-inch tyres, but they're also going for a slight change in concept, aren't they?
Yeah, there's two aspects there. The tyre size is changing. It's going to have an aero influence, will require new suspension as well, and the tyre will kind of flex less than the current version, which is going to simplify things for teams. Teams are spending an utter fortune on defining aerodynamics in wind tunnels based on tyre flex, and the top teams are much better than this, so a more solid tyre will level things out. But there's also going to be a change of concept to the racing as well. I think it's quite interesting. Pat Simmons, who now works for Formula One, has spoken to teams, has spoken to Pirelli, and they think they've been wrong in asking Pirelli to produce high degrading tyres. It's been a concept that's given us some great racing in the past, but one of the problems with the racing now, and when the cars get close in these downforce, the tyres overheat, drivers can't stay close. So they want to create a tyre that allows them to stay close behind another driver, push flat out, tyres don't overheat, wider working windows, and they can stay close. I think the key message that's coming from F1 is they want rule changes to improve the racing. That's the bottom line. So
what's left to do until the final deadline, when the final changes will be presented? I think it's finalising the regulations. We've got a concept, Giorgio Piola's drawing as a concept of what the car looks like, the different wings, the ground effect, the Venturi tunnels, where it's going, and now we've got to get down to the nitty gritty and define the actual regulations. FOM have also set up a kind of rules breaker group inside their headquarters, going through the rules as though they were a Formula One team, trying to find the loopholes, trying to find where the problems are, trying to work out where teams, if we can exploit this grey area in the front wing regulations, we can wreck the racing. Because the teams aren't there to make good racing. No. The teams are there to produce the fastest car, and their ideal scenario is to produce the fastest car that's a second quicker than the opposition. They disappear into the distance and make a boring race. So you've got this, conflict going on between them, but F1 are going to keep working, and their job's not finished in September, October when these rules are finalised. They're going to keep working at it. They're going to keep trying to find loopholes, keep trying to find improvements, pushing on. I think they're determined to make 2021 a success. I know there's been some concerns from teams and media that 21 is not going to be the big change there is, but if this car concept is carried forwards, this car concept works, it could make a huge change to the racing.